How do we imagine female inhabitants of the Stone Age? Shaggy, ragged, dirty people who live in caves? But what would you say if you hear that they wore elaborate ornate clothes, but not animal skins, lived in mega cities and loved art, but the most interesting thing is that they treated women like goddesses? So let's find out what was the life of a Neolithic girl like, and is it true that women had power then? And why did those who lived in the Stone Age keep the bones of their ancestors under the bed? And is it true that the fashion didn't change after all these years? Meet our protagonist. She is a young girl who lives in the Stone Age, but not in a dirty cave, but in a real megacity where about 10,000 people and about 2,000 houses. And now she's going down to her home for help. It is remarkable that there are no windows or doors in her comfortable apartment. You can get inside from the roof only, by the stairs. We should say that the Stone Age megacity where our protagonist lives is completely different from modern cities. There are no streets or squares here. The city life takes place on flat and sunny roofs. Just admit it, there is something special about it, isn't it? Megacity in the Stone Age? What? Yes, today archaeologists call the city by the modern name of this area, Çatalhöyük, in Turkey. But its inhabitants are considered ancient Europeans. Other scientists are sure that this place was a cradle of Indo-European civilization. Çatalhöyük became a real shock in the scientific community because it opened the eyes of researchers to the highest level of development of the Stone Age culture in 8000–7000 before Christ. Keep in mind that only about 5% of the entire monument has been excavated today. Well, you may ask, how did other people of that time live, those who were not born in this city? Of course, cities were an exception at that time. Although Çatalhöyük is not the first city of the Stone Age. In 1990, Halanchemi was discovered. This city was founded in 10,200 before Christ, but they also lived quite comfortably in other places. More than 100 Stone Age campsites have been explored in Norway recently. It turned out that the houses there were diverse. Already in the Mesolithic period, about 9,500 years before Christ, they built earth houses. Some of them were about 40 square meters. Clay buildings were excavated too. People lived also in tents made of skins, in yurts. Yes, and in the Balkans in the Stone Age there were prototypes of cities. Archaeologists found extensive central settlements which existed for centuries. But let's go back to the 7th millennium. Ragged, dirty, wearing animal skins. Did the beauties of the Stone Age look like that? Of course not. In fact, in the Neolithic, humankind made one of the main leaps in its history. It is called the Neolithic Revolution. In comparing to the discoveries of that time, the internet and modern technologies are complete nonsense. One of those revolutionary inventions of the Stone Age was fabric. In our megacity, the fabrics were already so fine that modern technology wouldn't have made them better. And fashion hasn't changed much since the Stone Age. The ancient beauties sewed unusual skirts narrowed the knee level, aprons and blouses. Moreover, the dresses of the fashionistas were richly decorated with pattern and bone beads. In colder areas, they also wore gorgeous coveralls with hoods, like those made by modern Eskimos. The clear lines on the statues and figurines indicate that turbans, hats, and even crowns were popular in the Neolithic period. The girls of that time also liked modern buns and even complex curls, leather boots, But what about beauty standards? No 1960-90. Judging by numerous images of female figures of the Stone Age, plump bodies with wide hips were in fashion. According to the ancients, only such a beauty could feed a healthy baby. Meanwhile, our protagonist took a ladder and went down from the roof into a spacious house where her bed was located, a clay platform and a stove, as well as a kitchen. Our protagonist came to ask for help from her ancestors. By the way, their skulls lie under her bed and in special alcoves. It seems strange to us. For our protagonists, they are assistants and guards who protect their relative from evil spirits and help with everything. Before leaving the house, our protagonist looked in the mirror. It seems like mirrors appeared in the Stone Age. She put on her best jewelry and made up, because today is a big day in her life. And the ancestors should help her in the main thing. Today, the eldest mother of the family chooses a name for our protagonist. How are we used to imagine the people of the Stone Age? A headman who commands men, and a bunch of disenfranchised, overworked women sitting in a dark, damp, and gloomy cave. No, it's not true. Our protagonist lived in a completely different world, the women world. Spacious apartments of 4 or 5 rooms, decorated with murals, stunning shrines on several floors, the highest level of art development, and in the opinion of an archaeologist, Maria Gimbutas, they even had a proto-writing, and what is more important, they had a completely different look on the women's role in this world. Forget about the headman. A clan of 200-300 people was headed by a woman, the great mother of the family. She was the senior priestess, sometimes her brother or uncle, and according to scientists, a kind of woman's council of 9 ladies. This video is based on the books of the world-famous archaeologist Maria Gimbutas and a book of the British archaeologist James Mallard, who discovered Chartel Hook. If you say it can't be true, try to look at the world through the eyes of our ancestors. At that time, people didn't realize that men were also involved in the birth of children. Therefore, the family tree was based on a female line, not on the male line. A woman who could create a new life was regarded as divine. The mistress of the world was a woman, a goddess who can give a new life, and a man was either a guest or a destroyer, an invader. The uprise of agriculture here in Chartel Hook and its surroundings changed the life of mankind totally. Scientists also associated with a female gatherer, not with a male hunter. And this fact created a divine vibe around women. And the most ancient deity of mankind, as many researchers believe, was the mother goddess, the goddess of life and death. Here is a picture of her giving birth on leopards. It was found in Chartel Hook by scientists, and this is just one of the hundreds of female images found here. An archaeologist and leading expert on Indo-Europeans, Maria Gimbutas, wrote that the first images of the great goddess are more than 500,000 years old. Famous figurines called Paleolithic Venus were also found in huge areas. The symbols of the great goddess were also a bee and a fish. The ancient belief in the great goddess had strong roots, so numerous patriarchal religions couldn't replace it later. By the way, the cult of the Virgin Mary survived also in Christianity. Of course, priestesses and servants of the Mother Goddess were women. There is no coincidence that the priests of many religions still wear women's clothing today, and the peoples of the north have preserved the custom of ritual cross-dressing. A man have put on women's clothing if he wants to talk to the gods. It is time. The evening star rises in the sky, and our protagonist goes to the temple. It is one of the many temples found in Chartel Hook. This temple belongs to her family. Look at this image on the wall. This is the Frog Princess, one of the avatars of the great goddess. According to the famous archaeologist Maria Gimbutas, these images of part woman, part frog go back to the mind-boggling antiquity, to the Upper Paleolithic. They were common in various cultures of mankind in different parts of the world. They deal with the birth-given avatar of the goddess. Our protagonist also sees murals that shed light on the great mystery of life and death. The mother goddess had different incarnations. As death, she showed herself in the form of vultures. As rebirth, she appeared as a frog. Yes, our ancestors in the Stone Age believed in reincarnation, the cycle of life and death in the body of the Great Mother. They didn't bury the dead in the ground, they left them on such pillars. They were eaten by vultures. But on these murals, vultures put human inside birds and women, and a new birth comes. The highest level of civilization, decorations, stunning murals were not the only thing that amazed scientists in the Stone Age city. The British archaeologist James Mallard, who discovered Chartle Hook, wrote that there were clearly many priestesses, but there is no evidence of a hierarchical structure. And most important is the fact that there are no traces of wars for almost 2,000 years of the city's existence. Another researcher of Chartle Hook, Bernard Brosius, came to a surprising conclusion. There was no social inequality at all. All the houses are copies of the same house. There were no rich nor poor. Everyone was equal, a kind of Stone Age communism. After study of some ancient settlements, Turkish archaeologists believed that such a classless society of universal equality appeared as a result of real social revolution in 7200 before Christ. Moreover, the revolutionaries overthrew the slave drivers. They were also able to build their own earthly paradise, a society of equality with equal rights for women and men, a society that spread throughout Anatolia and almost simultaneously to the Balkans and existed for 3,000 years. Archaeologists are also sure that the quality of life in Chartle Hook was far ahead of all epochs up to the present. It seems that some of the buildings were used as real hospitals in the Stone Age. But the most interesting thing is that according to Brosius, 300 years ago peasant serfs had a shorter lifetime than the inhabitants of Chartle Hook in the Stone Age. And the only explanation is the central position of the mother in the social structure, as well as the great role of the great goddess religion. Men are more inclined to fight for power and prestige. They created bright rituals and property inequality, according to Gimbutas. But let's go to the main question now. Is it possible to say that it was women who ruled in Chartle Hook and the Balkans in the Stone Age? Scientists don't believe in it. The matriarchy of the Stone Age is not a mirror image of the familiar model when women pushed men aside and seized power in their own hands. No, archaeologists confidently say that there was a real equality then. Men and women didn't even have a specialization of labor. In some murals, women also participate in hunting. Well, who ruled? It seems that the power was also divided. The sacred power belonged to the goddess deputy, the great mother of the family. She was in charge and ruled sacred agricultural works. At the same time, it is quite possible that the brother or uncle of her was a kind of manager. He supervised public works, crafts, and trade. That was a principle of separation of powers. Well, our protagonists and other girls of her age are preparing for one of the most important moments in their lives. In the temple, the great mother of the family is already waiting for them. The other mothers, women who are marked with a special gift to speak with their ancestors and the gods, are here too. Today they will get their names and missions from the Mother of the Gods. The aroma of burning herbs and tambourine drums made our protagonist feel dizzy. In flames, she saw a female figure and heard the name, Ashara. When she came to her senses, the mothers of her family were watching her intently. "You have received a great honor, Ashara," the Great Mother told her. "The Mother of the Gods herself gave you a name. It seems that you are destined for a great fate. You are destined to become one of us, the Knowing." The Knowing treated and read fortunes, kept knowledge, and accompanied their people on the last journey on earth. Being one of them was a dream, but all these will happen in the future. Now she has to go through a training and become a mother. And now the eldest mother will choose her husband. There was no concept of a father then, but it was believed that a man contributes to the growth of the woman's fertility. Our Ashara has had many adventures, but we will talk about that some other time. But what happened next to the people of our protagonist? The megacity of the Stone Age was never captured. It was abandoned. In the 6th millennium, they just left. Today, archaeologists believe that the city that lived for 2,000 years without wars was abandoned because of the problems of all modern megacities. Large crowds of people cause diseases and unsanitary conditions. The inhabitants left, but they kept their civilization. Some researchers considered Châteauhugh and other cities of the Anatolian Stone Age to be the cradle of Indo-European civilization, while others consider them to be ancient Europeans who left Turkey for the Balkans and gave birth to the archaeological Vinci culture. They left a huge mark in the cultures of the Basques, Celts, Balts, and Slavs. This unusual civilization was destroyed already in the Bronze Age. Gimbutas believed that the Neolithic civilizations of the Great Goddess died because of the invasion of the nomads from the southern Russian steppes, who had a completely opposite view of the world. That society was clearly dominated by men, and those men were warriors. Their deities were also men. The clan was headed by a leader, and social inequality was widespread. The Bronze Age has begun in Europe. The matriarchal society of universal equality was replaced by class society, exploitation, and endless wars, all that we see so far. To understand why all this is so important, let me remind you that the Stone Age began 3 million years ago and ended quite recently, with the invention of metalworking technologies only 5,000–6,000 years ago. That is, the most part of its history, humankind has lived in the Stone Age, and some tribes of Oceania are living it now. Let me remind you that this video is based on books of the world-famous archaeologist Maria Gimbutas and a book of the British archaeologist James Mallard. I should say that the scientific community accuses both of trying to embellish and idealize a little. Nevertheless, Gimbutas and Mallard remain major figures in the scientific world. I mean, think about it. Do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. Oh, and click on the bell so you get notified when the new episode comes out.